Welcome to this episode of SG24 Tactical Reviews. When it comes to airsoft, and specifically airsoft grenades, there's lots of different options out there on the market. Some grenades shoot BBs and spin around, others don't move but shoot BBs, and then ones like this just make a lot of noise. This is the Thunder Bee sound grenade. And the reason I like the Thunder Bees is simplicity of design, and there's not a lot of parts that can get busted, which is really a good thing when you're throwing these around. The Thunder Bee relies around the core piece, which is this piece right here. You'll notice that on ours, we've attached the pin to the core piece using a piece of bright flagging tape, because when we throw these, oftentimes they're a bear to find and the pins get lost. So we just tied them together to solve that problem. Your core piece here, you have a cylinder, which actually is what goes inside the grenade shell. The cylinder is where you put your CO2 cartridges. So you take off the end cap here, and the CO2 cartridge goes in there. Just a standard CO2 cartridge you can buy in any store. Up in here, there's a little plunger with some blades on it. So when you release the grenade, the blades get hit by a hammer and go into the cartridge, releasing CO2, and that's what causes it to go off. Now, the one thing I don't like about Thunder Bees, I'm not really sure if there's any way to help it, is they are a pain to arm. To arm them, you have to get this little hammer piece to flip back, and it's really hard to do, especially if you're wearing gloves. So I usually use a knife to get that up. And that little plunger is spring loaded. So you have to get it all the way back down. Then you've got to get the spoon to come down and cover it. There you can see the plunger is armed and the spoon is in place. Then you put, there's little holes on the side of the head here. You put your pin through. And there, that grenade is armed. Now what we do is we use a multi-tool to bend the ends of the pins, so you can still yank the pin out and it will come because the bends aren't real strong, but it won't come off in your pocket because we have had some go off in people's pockets before. So when you're ready to actually use the grenade, pull the pin and you hold the spoon. Then when the spoon is released, that snapping noise is the hammer going down, and if this was armed, the hammer will push that plunger, which would go into the cartridge and release the CO2. Now, there's many different shells for the Thunder Bee you can get. You have the standard pineapple shell, but each shell attaches to the core cylinder the same way. You slide it up here, and then there are teeth and threads, so you just screw that on until, make sure to get it really, really tight, because if there isn't a tight seal between the top of your shell and your core, then your CO2 will leak out there, and that's bad because your grenade won't go off. Another slight issue I've noticed with the Thunder Bees, and you notice I didn't actually tighten this all the way down, because when you tighten this all the way down, sometimes when you undo it, the core, or the cartridge where the CO2 cylinder sits, actually attaches to the head here, and you can unscrew this. That way you can access, there's the actual cutter. This sometimes will come off with the shell and be stuck inside the shell, and you have to use like a multi-tool or a knife to get it off. So that's why I make sure when I attach these on here that they are really, really tight, so that way when I undo the shells they don't come off too. For the Thunder Bee, I've got two of the shell types here, the standard pineapple, and then this is supposed to be a quick shell, so that way if it has less time from when you release the spoon to when it goes off because it's smaller. You can get flashbang ones, which are kind of like this, but they're round cylinders, and they take a long time to go off because there's more area to fill up. And then these are kind of like in the middle. They take a moderate amount of time and then they go off. The Thunder Bees are great. They make a lot of noise. They have some shells now with a little cap you can screw on the end, which is supposed to be able to control the amount of time it takes for the shell to go off. I haven't actually tried those, so I don't know how well they work. Typically we just use the pineapple shells because they work the best for us. You can put powder in the shells, or they don't recommend this in the instructions obviously, but you can put powder in here or BBs. The trick is we've put a small amount of BBs in these and they explode out pretty good when the shell goes off. You don't want to put too much in because they don't all go out and you'll just waste BBs. And they work pretty good. Thunder Bees go off with quite a bit of force, but not so much force as to make them dangerous. Like if it went off in your hand or something, it'd probably be a little startling, but it wouldn't be dangerous. And the BBs are flung, but only about 10 feet around the shell, so it's not like a big explosion. When they go off, the shell usually ruptures. The shells are designed, I believe, to rupture in certain areas. So I've noticed that when we've tested them, they do tend to rupture in similar areas every time. But we like them because they're pretty cheap. The shells you can get in large lots for like 20 or 30 bucks. You can actually get a starter pack that comes with one of these and then 3 shells, and I think it's like $15 or something. It's or $20. It's not, anyway, it's not real expensive. You can get a lot of these. You can buy the cores by themselves too. We have a bunch of cores because you got to have your core. This is actually your grenade. So each time you want a grenade, you need a core to go with it. And basically these are a lot of work to arm the field, so you have to have multiple cores if you want to use multiple grenades, because you're not going to be reloading this out there. There's just not enough time and it's too much fuss. But shells are cheap, and the nice thing about them is they're made out of a plastic that's recyclable, so if you're earth conscious, you can just recycle your old shells and then get new ones, and you're not filling up the landfill, which is pretty cool. We've actually used these in a couple of games. The way we play, if a grenade lands near you and it goes off, you're dead. So here's a clip of actually us deploying one of these in game. And as you can see, it makes a pretty loud pop, you know, enough to get someone's attention, and it adds a new level to gameplay, which is pretty cool, and a little bit of fun there. So that is the Thunder Bee sound grenade. So if you're interested in a cheap grenade system that's pretty reliable, we've had a little bit of problems. Sometimes they won't go off if the hammer doesn't quite penetrate the cartridge, but in general they're pretty reliable. So yeah, if you're looking for a good grenade system, the Thunder Bee might be something you'd be interested in looking into. Alright, I will see you next time on SG24 Tactical Reviews.